everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name's Hannah Hale, and I'm excited to be hosting today's session, which is a high-level overview focusing on the key updates for SuccessFactors H1 2026 release. Today's not going to be about a deep dive feature by feature. It's all about helping you understand what's changed at a strategic level, where we're seeing key themes across the suite, and what that means for your organization. For those looking for more detailed content, we've created a comprehensive release ebook, which will be available on our website, and we'll also send that through after the session. And of course, for our existing Zalaris Care AMS customers, we'll be following up with you with targeted guidance aligned to your specific environments. So let's get going. So today we'll cover a quick look at the key release themes before moving on through each of the modules in the suite. We'll tackle it in 5 sections, and as we go through, please feel free to direct questions directly to me or in the Q&A chat function in the webinar tool. We'll pause briefly at the end of each section and have a quick chat and pick up 1 or 2 questions where we can. Otherwise, we'll aim to get to as many questions at the end in a Q&A session, time permitting. So let's meet our speakers. Joining me today, we have an amazing group of our SAP SuccessFactors specialists from across the Zalaris Consulting team. Each of our speakers will take you through their respective areas of expertise. Sondre will be covering core HR, payroll and time, Jessie covering talent and analytics, Siri covering recruitment and onboarding, Tobias covering learning, and Dirk covering platform and AI readiness. Not only are they certified SAP SuccessFactors solution experts, they work with customers on these topics every day. So the focus of today will be very much on real-world impact and practical considerations. So let's jump into the release themes. What we're seeing in this release is pretty clear shift in direction from SAP. It's really where we move from AI readiness to AI activation. We're seeing dual agents going generally available across multiple areas, including talent, payroll, HR services, and analytics. So AI really is no longer something organizations are preparing for. It's something that SAP is expecting customers to start using. At the same time, we're seeing full profile becoming mandatory. That's a strong signal that SAP is standardizing the data model, and that consistency is now a prerequisite for everything else. We're also seeing Smart Recruiters is now live and integrated into SuccessFactors, and that's a key shift towards AI-driven matching, automated scheduling, and much more connected hiring experiences. With workforce scheduling reaching general availability, we're seeing a move towards skills-based workforce to demand matching and more dynamic planning of labour and capacity. There's also a multi-year modernization of ECP, moving to HANA-based architecture with new AI capabilities. So this is about future-proofing payroll and enabling more advanced analytics and automation over time. And finally, we're seeing a significant expansion of people intelligence, pre-built insights across multiple areas, and natural language queries for Joule. So analytics becomes more accessible, but also more dependent on connected, high-quality data. The key thing to understand here is none of this sits in isolation. AI depends on data, data depends on structure, and insights depend on how well everything is connected. So this is really a platform-level shift, not just features for being released. So with that being said, let's start with the foundation, core HR, payroll, and time. Sondre, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Hannah. So what we've been seeing is that it's been a big priority to really enhance a lot of the core functionality. And the first signal of that is the full profile, which is now enabled for all customers. So this is something that needs to be a priority to review. It kind of helps unify the solution a bit more. And I think this is one of the big shifts and big lifts on the solution as a whole. But our key topic for our customers will be that you need to also review to not just migrate to the new solution, but also to review all the opportunities that this will give you and how you can configure the user experience. And secondly, there's also been a lot of administrator revamps in the solution. Some of it are designed as the the unified experience, aligning with the system as a whole, which has been a big shift. But it also aligns to the other topics that I will mention shortly, which is also that a lot of settings are now moved more to the administrator. So this as a whole also means that it kind of lifts the solution to also be more customer friendly, to take more control of the solution. The other point about pay transparency has been widely discussed for the last year. And now finally, SAP is also providing a solution to help with employee pay transparency for all users of the Employee Central Core solution. So this is something that also needs to be investigated and prioritized by all our customers on how they can really utilize this functionality. Next up is another big focus for the admins, and that is that the release center is now available with the details and the functionality that allows you to assign and look through all the functionality that comes in this release. And this is a big lift for allowing customers to have full control of all the changes that will come into their solutions. And finally, we also have that Joule also gets more use cases. Now, AI has been a big topic and will be across the entire solution. But with this shift that is coming in this release, I really think it's a good time for customers who haven't started using the AI functionality and specifically Joule to look into it. And a great example of that is also that now we have time use cases for the first time. So now it's really possible to make this move into the entire customer base, all the employees, all the end users, and all the managers. So this I wanted to highlight, as you can see here, the release functionality, because what it does is not just allowing you to see the information, but it also allows you to review, prioritize, and decide within your organization, within the solution, what action you're going to take and who's going to be responsible for it. So I think this is one of the key shifts that allows you to actually take more control over your solution and understand what's happening, because now there are a lot of changes coming and a lot of improvements. And I think some customers are really going to benefit from having this overview right in their solution, where you can even assign it to specific employees to be responsible for the follow-up of each release. All in all, I think the key benefits are more that you have both a unified employee experience, administrator experience, and you also will see that a lot of the release notes that we will not discuss in detail today also gives a lot of functionality and benefits across the data quality and compliance. And this is all the way from the system functionality, the validations, that is going to be added in this release. And what this also then future does for your organization is that you will have lower admin overhead, you'll have better control of the solution, which all in all will also give you reduced implementation risk. So I think this release right now has been one of the biggest and best releases for Employee Central Core solution. With Employee Central Payroll, we have a lot of functionality that's also come through in the last couple of years. But right now, I think we're seeing one of the best shifts that we have for the solution. We've already talked about the unifying experience. This has been a priority, as you can see here as well. But this also comes as a bigger picture, which is the whole modernization program of ECP. Now, this will be a multi-year modernization where we'll actually move both the foundation, but also the functionality to move it into one unified solution and data structure. But what this does is that the enablement and the structure for Easy Payroll will be a lot more unified on a data level as well as a user experience level. This also ties into the whole structure with the tool and with the AI functionality. So one of the key things has also been the payroll resolution agent and many other agents, such as also the explanation agent of your payslip. Now, what this does is that it kind of ties into the whole user experience of having AI, having chats, having a lot more user-friendly experience and navigation into the data that you previously had to browse through to find. I think this is one of the biggest shifts, that it's also a big user experience shift, that now payroll will also not just be a background entity, but also a user-friendly experience both for administrators and employees. This adds also to the last one, which is that the new product, People Intelligence, will also have standard functionality for the payroll reporting right into its solution. All in all, ECP is now a product that is very mature. It has fewer errors because it allows you to actually work through the information with agents and also with validations and automatizations to a very good level. That also means that as a solution, you will also have a product that gives you fewer payroll related inquiries and better uh, and correct results more often. But what it also means as a whole and as a platform is that the SuccessFactors ECP solution will also now be future ready. It will be improvement program for a long period of time, which will keep enhancing and keep being a product that will be stable and support your solution going forward. And additionally, this has also been one of the key points with the solution as a whole, is that payroll and HR has sometimes been set side by side. But what this also does is that it actually unifies it. So you now in the same solution, people intelligence can both report on the total workforce information, time information, HR processes, and strategic information and talent information. But you can also have payroll insights in the same solution. And this has been a big gap previously, which is now really tying the solution in as a whole. And finally, we have workforce management. Now, this is actually quite a large update because we have a new product, which is called workforce scheduling. And what this does is actually meeting the demand that the time solution now supports to have more planning, more shift-based, more production based time schedules. And it's things and functionality that's been missing in the previous solution that actually now allows you to use this as an entire new target audience and target customer for the time solution. And of course, this also adds into the people intelligence. So you also have the time information, the reportable and analytics as part of that. Now, some additional topics for the workforce management are also that people intelligence move into onboarding with pre-defined insights, and you also have people intelligence now for the rewards and benefits. So all in all, it's tying the solution together as a whole. So in the end, we now see that we have a complete solution. And what that means is that we have optimized labor costs. We can have data-driven information on time and absence management. You can start to measure your onboarding ROI, which means that you can actually start seeing the effects of what the product is doing to you. So all in all these functionalities that's coming through now is really supporting the strategic decisions, the information and the insights needed to drive your organization forward.
Thanks so much, Sondre. So before we move on, you covered that the full profile is becoming mandatory, ECP modernization, payroll AI agents. What actual changes operationally for customers as a result of these releases?
Well, I think one of the key topics is that the experience for employees will change and how they use the solution. Operationally, it will be a lot easier to engage your entire customer base or organization base, but it also actually allows customers to take more control of the solution, being administrators previously, that or to an extent that was previously only for partner or technical consultants. So they're really making a unified product where the organizations can take full control of the solution.
Sounds good. Team, any questions?
Maybe a
Sondre?
question from me, Sondre. So now the latest people profile has been made mandatory for all organizations. I know that a lot of the company already prepared ahead for it, but there are some that haven't started yet. So do you have any lesson learned or tips that you may want to give our customer or our prospects how to prepare for this shift?
Yes, absolutely. I think the last release, it would also push for the solution and functionality that was a bit surprising to some customers. So my suggestion is that to take good time to actually explore not just the migration, but also the functionality. The user experience will be new, but there's also things such as the presentation of information, the presentation of data that can also change now with the new profile. So my recommendation is to take good time to actually test the solution for all the key roles in your organization and actually explore the functionality to ensure that you get a complete solution that gives you a lot more value.
Thanks, Sondre. So really, they need to start testing the system and try out the transformation already, yeah?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Any other questions, team, for Sandre?
Oh, sounds good.
Okay, sounds good. Well then, Jessie, over to you then for succession, PMGM, calibration and analytics.
Thanks, Hannah. All right, so then we will move on with the updates available for this release for performance and goals first. Can we move to the next slide, please? Sorry. Thank you. All right, so for performance and goal features update, for this release, the trend that we are seeing, what SAP is trying to do is that to improve the usability of our review process in performance and goal, as well as making it easy for our administrator to manage the process as well. So for these two trends, we are seeing various items that's very exciting for us to talk about. So the first one would be for the AI-assisted performance insights. So previously, these insights is only available for single role step when it comes to manager review, but now it's all made available for iterative and collaborative step. So that means for organization that relies heavily on matrix manager review, now matrix manager will also be able to benefit from that. And for any collaborative step or collaborative review between the managers, managers will also be able to use the insights functionality to help us to provide better feedback to our employees. So another change that we see, it's mainly to improve the administrative action for managing the review process, is the option to mass change the goal plan states. So I know for a lot of the company in the past, you have always been creating a new template separately just to so that we can do a mass update. And that template needs to maintain every year, and you need to launch a form for that template. So now moving forward with this release available, you no longer need to do that. So you can delete away all those templates. You can just use a click of a button to do this mass goal plan change. So for company that's using goal plan state for your goal management, this would be really beneficial for you. And next would be for the dynamic form content business rule. So for our last release, SAP has actually introduced business rule to performance form. And in this release, they are making it even better. So this is one of the most liked update for me personally within this release. So what now this business rule can do is that you can add in even more conditions for the performance form design. For example, we can automatically launch a new form based on the review content that you have got for your previous review. So for example, if we have a performance review form, employee is getting an underrated or maybe getting an unexpected, not meeting expectation rating, system will be able to launch a performance improvement plan automatically based on such review. So also saving us time as administrator to manually launch the performance improvement plan. Another scenario we can use is, for example, employees is getting a high rating, maybe exceeding expectation. So for such cases, we can also force the managers to provide the overall rating comment so that we are making sure that there's no bias or maybe over standardized rating input during the review process. So moving forward is also about making the system more usable for our end user, be it employee or manager. So actually some of the customer has complained about this before. So what happened is that with the latest performance form feature, the introduction section is always collapsed by default. So that whenever our employee or manager is doing the review, they will need to manually open up the instruction section to review the details. So now this one would actually be changed. So it's possible for administrator to set the setting so that it will be open or expanded by default in the first place with the option for our employee or manager to choose to collapse it instead. And then last and not least, for AI side, so performance review is also now available as an agent for our tool. So what could be possible is that for manager preparing for a one-on-one meeting with your employee, you can first now talk to Drew to extract any performance insight for the employee to prepare you for the meeting next day. So you can explore on what could be discussed in, for example, your current performance status, what's your ongoing activities, as well as if there are any development needs for you, for the employee. So definitely improving the insights for manager to employee to have more meaningful discussion, not just for end of the year, but for regular discussion as well. So for all these updates, the positive impacts are many. So let's take a look at what are the benefits brings from these updates. So definitely for higher quality of performance review. So you can see for managers, it's easier for us to gain insights about employees' performance. It's also easy for us to put our feedback directly into the performance review form. So what's the result of that? It's also easier for us to complete the review process, hence gaining productivity for our managers. In terms of administrative time, it's also now easier for us to manage the review process, especially for those that's using GoPlan State. It's also easier for us to manage our form processes. So only relevant content will show up in our performance review form. And it's easier for us to have meaningful content being included into the review process. So that would be the updates that we have for this release for performance and goals. Moving on, I will also talk about the calibration updates. So for calibration, the trend for this update is also improving the usability of calibration sessions. So first would be the beneficial point for organization that's relying heavily on matrix manager relationship. So for this update, starting from this update, it will now be possible for matrix manager to also create calibration session. So previously, this feature is only possible for a direct manager to create the manager session. So this may not be so convenient for companies that relies on dotted line reporting line heavily. So now with this update, it is possible for matrix manager to do so. Also, in terms of usability of the calibration session, it's also now improved. So looking at item 2 in this deck here, you can see that it is now possible for us to have the beat width within the calibration view to be automatically adjusted. What means is that if in case we choose to hide certain rating, in the past, the remaining rating field would actually remain in the same size. So often the case, our facilitator will need to manually adjust the width. So now it's possible that system will just directly adjust the width to show it within the screen size. So that's really good. So that also saving our facilitator some time to toggle between the different bin width during the calibration session. Another update that would be available is about the filter settings. So it's also more convenient for our facilitators because now system would remember what's your filter setting for the calibration session. So when we create or run another session later on, the same filter settings would remain in there until you choose to change it. So again, it's to improve the usability or maybe reduce the time for administrator to change the view within our calibration session. Also, now for calibration session, we have enhanced the capability to include more subjects into the review sessions. So this would be more beneficial for companies that's doing larger group reviews. For example, we are doing talent calibration for the full organization. So for large company, if you have any session that's more than 3,000 subjects, it's now possible to be created. As in the past, it's not possible. And for any discussion that we have completed, if you would like to mark some of these employee as discussed, it's now much easier within the calibration session as well. So in the past, more clicks would be required for you to check the employees, click action, and then mark them as discussed. Right now, directly on one screen, you will be able to select the employees and mark them as discussed. So when we have the next calibration session meeting, you no longer need to review these employees. You can just continue from the rest of undiscussed subject employees. So for some of these updates, it also brings positive feedback or benefit to our organization. So if we can take a look at that. So with the improved usability, sorry, Hannah, we need to thank you. So with the improved usability, so one is definitely for organization that relies heavily on dotted line reporting line, which often represent critical project or functional expertise. So it's now possible for us to have matrix manager calibration sessions. So also ensuring the coverage of our org coverage and ease of using the calibration sessions. Also, it's easier for us to have to complete the calibration cycles because it's now much easier for our facilitators to run the session with more of the automated feature available. Another one would be definitely for enterprise scalability. So for larger companies or medium to larger size company, it's now easier for us to include a larger population for the calibration. And last important feature is that or benefit, it would be definitely reducing the homepage noise. So one of the items we maybe didn't highlight previously was that now with calibration, we can actually choose some of the user that shouldn't be included as notified user within the homepage. So because there also has been a lot of discussion about how homepage is being cluttered with notifications or to-dos, although some of them is not really relevant for me. So now moving forward, we can just notify the ones that's relevant for the calibration so that there's less clutter or less alert fatigue when it comes to the homepage reviews. So next for us, we will also start talking about succession release or succession updates for this release. For succession in this release, we are seeing better governance in terms of permission, also better integration points for attributes. Also AI will now also stand a better or have a bigger say in terms of succession, making it easier for us to plan successors, also as well as to see the risk of our current succession plan. So let's deep dive into some of the items we find quite exciting for these updates. So first one would be for any organization that use presentation to present our succession plan. So now using presentation mode for position tile view, it's also possible to have any filters that you are already using in your position tile view in succession. So in a way, this is a better integration point, ensuring a synchronized or similar user experience within different features for succession planning. So be it within succession or within presentation, you are now able to have same filters that's being used for position tile. Another benefit, another enhancement in terms of integration would be for the custom attributes. So for custom attribute, it's now possible for us to create them in Talent Intelligence Hub. But in the past, what's happening is that it's not possible for us to search for anyone that has custom attribute using talent search. Now with this release, it's now possible. So enhancing the visibility of our talents for different custom attributes that we have created within the organization. The next tool would be related to AI enhancement. So it is now for us available for us to see insights for our succession planning. However, with these updates, what has been included is better governance in terms of some of the permission for seeing sensitive data. So for example, for performance rating, in the past, it is displayed by default whenever we try to generate the AI insight for our successor. So now we can actually control it with permission. So if some of the ones that's generating the AI insight should not have permission to see the sensitive data, we will be able to hide them for target populations. We will also now be able to generate health check for succession using our people intelligence. So this would be very beneficial for our succession planner as well as our executive leadership, because from that you will be able to see the succession coverage of our roles, as well as to identify any risk or flight risk for our successors and employees. And for the benefits of succession updates, for that is definitely proactive risk management. So for that, we can act ahead of our succession plan. We will be able to generate insight whenever needed, and then update our succession plan on time instead of waiting for risk to happen and then we act upon it. So the better talent visibility also make it easier for us to see all the talents and groom the talents internally. Stronger governance over sensitive data, making sure that for any sensitive data like performance, potential, or flight risk, there are now better permission or more option for us to control over the permission. So the result is also for us to have better succession insight, as well as ensuring data's privacy being the integrity of data sensitivity. So the impactful succession presentation would be more related to the position tile updates that's available. So making sure that now it's possible for us to review any data or use any filters that we have previously designed for not just succession, now for presentations as well. And for the last update for me would be for the analytics side. So for analytics, there are two areas that I would like to highlight. One would be more on the AI side of things. So for us, since last year or late last year, there's a new shining star available within analytics. So that is the people intelligence. So for people intelligence, previously Sondre has also touched on it slightly. So for me, maybe I will touch on what it can do. So for people intelligence, it's now possible to have pre-built insights on various talent modules. So it could be recruiting, learning, succession, career development, or performance and goals. For example, the one I mentioned earlier about succession, where we can have a health check on succession, that is part of the pre-built for the people intelligence. So really, it's just a click of a button. You will be able to see any risk for succession. You will be able to see what's the time to fill for recruiting, or you can see what kind of administrative tasks we are relying heavily on onboarding, or what we can improve for our onboarding process. What people intelligence can also do is it will help us to build reports for the data that will be relevant for us. I believe nowadays for a lot of the company, you may rely on your HRIS team or your support team to create report for you. It's quite heavy in terms of report building because you need to give your requirements in very detailed way. And then there may be back and forth discussion in terms of how to modify the report. But now with this people intelligence available, it's like an agent available directly within your system so that you can check with them and have the report built by AI with all the relevant information for you. So the same is also available for Joule. So you can also check with Joule, which is our agentic AI for SuccessFactors. Get assistance from Joule to build the report that you may need for various modules that is available within the system. So the next focus that's on analytic would be on story report. So one thing we know for sure is that story report is here to stay. So now with story report, there's also more improvement made to the story report in this release. For example, it's now expanded the option for us to join domain, as well as it's now possible to include more filters within the domains that we have joined. So what it's doing is really to make the story report more usable so that it's also easy for us to shift from the legacy report to the story report. So let's take a look at some of the benefit these analytic features brings. So definitely it would be able to democratize the workforce insight. So instead of relying on any HR business partner to draw the report for you or to create the report for you, now managers will be able to do the report creation directly using the agentic AI. So it's easier for us to gain insight to various processes that we are running in the organization. And it's also easy for us to gain insights cross modules. So the reporting migration risk is mainly about the enhancement of story report. So because we know that for our Canvas report or for some of the legacy report option, they may sunset in the year of 2027. So eventually we would definitely need to move to story report. So now with more option available within story report, it's also making sure that the movement or the transition to story report, it's more beneficial or easier for our customer. So this would be all the updates I had for the 4 modules or 4 different areas. Maybe over to the team if there's any question on the updates that I made.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jesse. I would like to go a little bit back to the succession module. So here you mentioned that there's a stronger talent search and the possibility of using custom attributes. Do you think this makes us closer to moving to a model where organizations can rely more on internal talent rather than always looking external outside the company?
Yes, definitely. So with better integration with Talent Intelligence Hub, I think in terms of succession, the beneficial part is that we are now encouraging company to groom your talent internally. So it's not just succession that would have the improved integration. Later on, I believe Tobias, you would touch on learning as well. So it's making it easy for us to realize the talent that we have. So also to find the talent internally. So for the talent search, now with the custom attribute available, it's easier for us to find those talent who has certain custom skills or capability that we have set in within the organization. And later on, it's also easier for us to identify who are the one that requires additional training on those custom attributes so that they can be trained to move on as a successor or to succeed as the successor for certain roles. So definitely this would improve our, I would say, internal utilization when it comes to promoting an individual instead of always looking out for hiring new ones from other companies.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Jesse.
much, Jesse.
That's really interesting. Some powerful updates there. Sorry, in the interest of time, we do need to move on. We've got recruitment and onboarding. Siri, there's some exciting changes in that space. Over to you.
Absolutely, Hannah. So for the recruiting and onboarding areas, I believe we can really see a shift in the hiring and onboarding processes from being very slow and manual to a more generally automated and experience-driven process, with recruiting now becoming a separate AI-supported tool with smart recruiters on the rise. So companies can now move from the complicated recruiting setup that they might have today with the SAP recruiting module to a better and more efficient integrated talent acquisition platform with a stronger AI usage, automation, and more focus on the candidate experience. Now, I know we've all been waiting for the smart recruiters for SuccessFactors to be live and easily available, and we're all very excited that that time has come. Though I imagine it will be quite a busy time for us recruiting consultants in the coming months and years. We're excited to see how this transpires. A couple of things worth noting, because it is in the early stages of this being made live and available for everyone, is that there seems to be very good and easy data migration routines available for the companies that have the old recruiting module, which I know is something that's quite important when you have an active system going. So if they want to move to smart recruiters, there will be a good support for that. Though I do believe that companies moving over should still plan for some work needing to go into this. I don't think it will be fully automated move. So it should be planned maybe as a small project for those companies. But I believe we have great things to come. And it's also worth noting that we do not have a date yet for the old SAP recruiting module to be fully retired, so there will be no forced migration yet. You do have time to stew on this and see how it works. Another thing that we're seeing this release is something that we've highlighted for a time will happen, and that is the onboarding 1.0 becoming fully retired. So company who has not already, I believe most should, must now rebuild the onboarding processes in onboarding 2.0. Rather than carrying on legacy setups in the onboarding 1.0, we will see the forcing of standardization and modernization. We all know that onboarding 2.0 is a lot more capable of. So that's is only going to be a positive, in my opinion. We are also seeing that SAP has put a lot of focus into improving compliance processes, maybe even making it more of a core architectural concern and not just an overthought that I know that some of the countries that use these have felt like it can be. Some of the improvements we are seeing this release is focused around the enhancements to visibility, as well as simplification on how and when you can see and complete your tasks around the I-9 re-verifications with dedicated activity cards, more visible task assignments, and the possibility for configurable timeframes. This will ensure that you complete your tasks in time and that everyone who has a task knows when to and where to find it. Reporting has also been improved this release. We'll be making the object directly reportable, making it easier for companies to keep track of their ongoing processes in this. So I think we'll see a better and time dedicated solution for the compliance and the I-9 verification especially. Okay, so what are the benefits with these enhancements? Well, with a more AI-centered approach to the hiring process, it will become easier and more efficient, especially on processes focused on a higher scale, where you're hiring on a larger scale. Sourcing, matching, and automated scheduling assist with the faster time to hire and the candidate quality that you can find. There's no doubt about that. Enhancements to the I-9 re-verification with configurable timeframes, like we mentioned, and automatic citizenship workflows will ensure employment eligibility is verified on time and help reduce compliance risks. The move to use only onboarding 2.0, as we know, will help deliver a more smooth new hire experience with more alignment to the full EC profile like onboarding 2.0 is, especially with all the updates that SAP has been giving us in the previous releases lately with things like automatic completion of tasks and similar things. So when we connect smart recruiters to this, helping identify skills that can be connected to growth portfolio and better automation and data flow, companies can really start working more in terms of finding and developing the best talent, not just recruit the first fit they find for a role. And that is going to be very exciting, I think, and needed for many companies. Do we have any questions for? Can you go back? Okay. Questions for I think there's a lot of questions for Smart Recruiter specifically, but does anyone have anything they want to ask?
Well, I definitely have something I want to ask, and that is because obviously I'm working closely with a lot of the Employee Central customers, and one of the key topics here is really like how will this now play into Employee Central with the new Smart Recruiters products? And essentially, it's like, is it a new project on the side? Will it simplify the structure, or how will this integration work going forward?
Yeah, that is a great question, and something I really do know that a lot of us are wondering. It's a question that's brought up multiple times. What I can say is Smart Recruiters will definitely capture and hand off only hire-ready data into EC. So it mirrors the SuccessFactors pattern that we're used to, with recruiting system collecting the data, but that EC owns the employee object. The roadmap messaging that we've been getting from SAP really emphasizes the fact that it's going to be a unified end-to-end hiring experience and harmonization across the lifecycle. So we're very optimistic about that. But it's worth noting that even in the older recruiting systems and the ones that many are using now, you already needed things like field mapping and transformation templates that were separate. And with Smart Recruiters, which it is a separate product, this can potentially become a little bit more decoupled, where customers might just need to think a little bit more in terms of integration architecture and not just configuration. It will be very interesting to see how this transpires over the years, though.
Fantastic.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Suri. And I'll just call out that we do actually have a dedicated webinar session on Smart Recruiters this Thursday in a couple of days at 10 a.m. CET time. So please join if you are interested to learn more about Smart Recruiters. And I think I'm going to get fired from ever being the slide clicker. So I think everyone got a sneak peek that we have learning up next. So I think that's over to you, Tobias.
Yes, thank you very much, Hannah. And if you move on to the next slide as well.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, and one back.
One more?
One back.
One
Oh,
back.
two
There we
back.
go.
There we go. Perfect. Yes. So yeah, for the learning this time, we have quite a lot of new releases, and I'm gonna group them a little bit into different areas. The first thing is that we've seen a lot of new changes into the user experience enhancement. So basically here we see different upgrades that's really gonna make the life of the user easier and more aligned with the learning module and the rest of the system. So some of them are customer configured, so you can choose if you want to use them, and some of them are universal. I'm just going to go quickly through them. So one of the main changes here is the possibility of enabling what is called a quick access to learning details. So here, instead of users always going to the learning homepage and then navigating away, they will be able to open up a small window where they can read more about the training that they might be interested in. Here they can find all the details, and if they want to enroll into a program or take the training, they can proceed from here. This is something that you can choose if you want this, because of course it does increase a little bit the amount of clicks that you have to do, but it really also gives just a nice experience on the learning homepage. Another change that is universal is a keyword search. SAP has added a keyword search into several different places, so it's easier for users to find trainings that they have on their learning homepage. This is a universal one and really nice one that's just going to make the life of the user much easier. And then they have enhanced the curriculum and program experience. Both of these experiences have been getting a new user interface. This is something you can either choose to enable or leave as it is. I do recommend you that you enable it because it is much nicer and it is much more in sync with how you see a standard course as well. There's also been some upgrades to how you see the curricular status as an employee. And from a program experience, you now have the possibility of changing some functionality. So you will have even more use cases for your learning programs. The manager is also getting a little bit, no, just stay here, a little bit of an upgrade. So here they are getting the possibility, if you, as a manager, sit on several roles, you can easily go between your different roles, as let's say as a matrix manager or as a direct manager. You might have different teams and you might want to see those separated, and now that's going to be possible. They also get easier access to registering their employees to classes, running reports specific for certain employees, and there's even a little bit of new system functionality for them as well. So really nice to see the managers getting some love as well. Then we see multiple employments being supported in learning as well. So in Employee Central, it's possible to have one person that sits on several positions. And this has given a few issues in learning over the time. So basically now we see that it will be reflected in the learning. So one person with several positions here as well. This is still an early adapter program, but it's really nice to see that SAP supports the idea in Employee Central all the way to the learning module as well. One of the key areas for learning and how learning really integrates into the rest of the system, and Jesse already talked about it, and Celia as well in onboarding, is how the usage of skills and attributes. So right, we here again see further improvements for using skills within the learning module. We see learning recommendations in Opportunity Marketplace if you're using skills here. And as well, within the learning module, it's going to be easier with the help of AI to match your trainings with the specific attributes within the system, and also choosing the proficiency of it. And then finally, a little bit of a bad news, but it's very important. So basically, the old way of running APIs to the learning module is going to be depreciated. So up to now, it's been possible to pick up a token and use that token to authenticate your APIs. From November 2026, you will have to use the new certificate authentication. So if you haven't already changed your integrations, please get in touch and we can help you make sure that you can be authenticated through certificates. And now you are very welcome to move to the next slide, Anna. Thank you. So just to sum up quickly, the user and the manager experience have been in focus, right? They're getting a better user experience, and it's more aligned within the learning module, but also with the rest of the system. We see an improved skills integration, making sure that that the skills that people see in the rest of the system is also reflected in the learning module, and we are getting help to make sure that the skills are well matched with the trainings we have in the SuccessFactors learning system. Then we see the ensuring that the way that EC works with multiple positions is also being reflected in learning, and ensuring just that the experience here are aligned is really nice. And then I'm very happy, and this one is not so much of a big business benefit, but a lot of these changes are coming through influence requests. So we do see that SAP really listens here, and I think this is the reason we see so many small changes to the user experience and to the meta experience, simply because this is what the customers are looking for. So if you have any influence requests, please let us know and we can help you set it up. It's probably a good time for it. Yes, thank you very much. Any questions?
Thanks, Tobias. Any questions, Dave?
Yeah, Tobias. I obviously would have a question on that because we've been talking a lot about AI. I will do in the next slides as well. So what would you see as the most beneficial ones for learning in AI topics? What's the best in your view?
It's definitely the skills integration. There's a few enhancements. You can generate AI images for your thumbnails for your training, but you could use any AI tool for that in theory. But the skills integration is really something that's going to be a huge benefit, because imagine you have 1,000 trainings and you have 200 skills and you have to match all those and you have to do it ongoingly. To have an AI assistant to help you there before you confirm it, it's really important. I think you had a question as well, Jesse.
Yeah. So actually, Tobias, it's more or less like circling back to our previous question. So now that in the past, we see that maybe performance and succession planning, it's not so much in line with learning within the same process, but now with better integration for attributes and skill visibility, do you think that learning will now play a more direct role in the performance or succession planning process?
Yeah, I think so, right? In the development of skills, employees see skills in the system. They're interested in developing these skills, and they need a little help to get started. And I think this is where training really picks it up, right? So for them to easily have access to training that will help them get started with those skills or to further develop them. Of course, it's not going to make anyone a master in it, but it can really be a good help to show employees a way to get started in different areas.
Yeah, that's really good to know.
Very
Thanks, Tobias.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank-
welcome, Jesse.
Thanks, Tobias. That was great. So over to you, Derek, for platform and AI readiness.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. You can quickly jump on the next slide right away. Thank you. So before we talk about the AI features at all, I think that there is one clear message that AI at the end only works if you have your foundations right. If you thought about security, thought about integrations, thought about permissions, and of course, last but not least, data quality, because that's what it's all about. So the next slide is this slide more or less is a little bit about key enabler for everything else. No, sorry, I took the wrong words, Hannah. We're still on this one. Yeah, thank you. So this is a little bit more technical than the other topics we had so far, but platform integration and security, of course, says that. So for main topics, out of my view, are that the basic auth will be deprecated at the end of 26. Then that Joule, really big thing, is now interoperating with Microsoft Copilot or even other agents. So I talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. The central platform for event-driven integrations, that's a major step I'm talking about. Next slide as well to give you a little bit more details. And just as a reminder, just you're able to plan it, Sunset 2028, it's some months left to go there, but nevertheless, planning is all about succeeding. So Neo CPI will be deprecated then as well. Now, Hannah, if we can move to the next slide, would be great. Thank you. So now the topics we just had, it's the basic authentication that's maybe the most critical non-AI item in the release, because at November 2026, so it's only about 7 months to go, this will all have moved to OAuth. So you will have much better way to work. It isn't optional, but the upside is improved security, and the key message is you should already know which interfaces, and that's the most important part about it, are affected and still use the basic authentication, because you have to look at them to have this on your roadmap to change it. And in our experience, many customers underestimate how many integrations still use the basic authentication, and especially some older CPI or point-to-point interfaces. So have a look at that so that you can clearly plan it, then don't have any surprises in that topic. The Joule topic with Joule connecting to other agents, so agent to agent in this case, brings you the possibility that you're no longer positioned as a standalone HR chatbot with Joule. So it now will be built to interoperate with other AI agents. You can use even Microsoft Copilot with it. So to keep it simple, it's more or less just the HR AI becomes part of your broader enterprise AI landscape. So it's not more an isolated tool. It is integrated in all the rest of your enterprise AI. And of course, especially interesting for customers that already invest in Microsoft Copilot or something like that, other agents. So you can incorporate now. And that brings me to the next topic as well. No, not next slide, just next topic. Sorry, Hannah. Um,
No,
we have
sorry.
we have event-driven integrations that will come up. So what is the thing behind it? The Cloud Application Event Hub will provide a central way to really react to HR events. So you can react to hires, to job changes, maybe in onboarding steps, for example, and you can do that in real time. So this point-to-point integration is essential for AI and analytics and real-time, reporting use cases. So to keep that in simple words as well, instead of asking, did something change, integrations now automatically react to when something really actually happens in the moment. And then the maybe the smallest part on that slide is that the CPI Neo sunset in 2028. I already mentioned it before. So we'll move to Cloud Foundry as the target platform. And in this case, it's just the planning. So keep heads up on that so that you do not have any last minute exercises or something like that. All of that means that you have to prepare for what is coming up. So that's why on the next slide we have a readiness checklist for you so that you can go through. And now, Hannah, we really can move to the next one. Thank you. This is kind of a checklist of what you have to do to be really ready for AI, to use it in the best way in your company. So first of all, quite simple, and at the end maybe about money. You have to check whether you have AI units. What is your license model? What is premium? What not? So that you can use AI and Joule over all of your modules and all the business cases you want to. Then maybe one of the most important things, it's the role-based permissions audit, because Joule fully respects RBP. But on the other hand, that means Joule is quite strong in finding topics. So you have to have clear role-based permissions that Joule only gives answers to the employees or whoever is asking, that really work with their permissions and they only see what they should see. Of course, we mentioned it before, data quality, so data readiness. You will always have bad results on anything if your quality, your job architecture, all that around that isn't in a proper way and isn't good maintained in your system, because that's the most important thing if you want to get good results. Change management, often underestimated, but if you really bring that into your company with change management topics, with change management planning, then you can take your employees with on that journey and really actively enable your users to use AI functionality. What you already heard from Sandra, that the full profile is mandatory, so it cannot be switched off. That means you must complete and test before production on that way, and integration assessment to come to the end. So finally, SAP even recommends so that you use that you make an integration health check, identify the basic auth usage. We already had that on the first slide. Evaluate the Event Hub adoption, and confirm your CPI strategy in terms of CPI Neo in future. So that makes sure that you're technically ready for all that. So maybe to come to the end on that one, it's not only about being the first to use AI, it's more or less prepare for that, be the one to have a good data experience on that things, and then go with good quality into all these AI topics. So for me, that would be the end of the slides. Maybe there are one or two questions, I don't know.
Yes, I definitely have some questions, and it's related to the AI point that you made now, because we have a lot of the agents, and you talked about the permissions, that they can be quite powerful, but you have to limit them. But do you also see that there's a dependency on the data quality or your setup in time or payroll to utilize these agents fully?
Yes, of course. The most important thing is a clean data, structured payroll and time data to really be able to use it at the end. So if you think about the payroll resolution agent, he of course can only detect any anomalies reliably if your wage types, if your time entries are consistent and if they are complete. So same with the explanation agent. So it depends even more on that, because it's a combination of the pay statement. You have time data to explain why a payslip looks like it does. And so, of course, all these fundamental data has to be correct. And that maybe is one point where many customers still fall short. So if you're fragmented in time data, if you have manual corrections, if you have inconsistencies in your structures, payroll structures, then yeah, tool will work with bad data at the end, and bad data always leads to bad results. So that's the most important thing, to be really clean on structure and quality.
Thank you.
I also have a question, Dirk, in relation to in relation to smart recruiters and the AI being such a prevalent step there, with making decisions that actually directly impact people. How should organizations balance speed and efficiency, but also make sure that it's rooted in governance, fairness, and a little bit of trust that the right decisions are being made?
Yeah, good point. It's always important if you have this AI is doing a lot. How is it doing these things? So at the end, my answer would be keep humans accountable, because AI only can help you. So AI should accelerate in terms of giving you informations, fast and good informations, so that you as a human are able to finally decide. So as long as you do not move the decisions to the AIs, as you use it for recommendations, for example, and as long as you know why, that would be one of my tasks, as long as you know why this recommendation is like that, you can work with it. So if you just follow it blindly and say, hey, cool, AI recommended to do this or that, no matter if we talk about recruiting or any other module, then maybe you should have a look behind it to really know why this is like that, why AI did this decision or recommended that. And then it's still a human thing. And I think AI is very powerful and very helpful. We should never forget, at the end, HR is a human business. There's a human in HR.
And I think that's a beautiful message to wrap on there. We, keeping humans accountable and just looking for ways that we can leverage AI and these innovations to make our work better and more productive. So, look, thank you so much to my team, to the panelists here today for running through all these great updates. Apologies, I know that we did go slightly over, but hopefully you found today's session really informative. If you did submit a question, apologies, we haven't had time to answer them today on the call, but we will round back to you directly to walk you through that one-on-one. In terms of next steps, we do have all that more detailed information in the H1 release ebook, an infographic that's available on our website, but we will send that through when we send through today's session recording in the next couple of days. If you are interested to learn more about smart recruiters, we've got our next webinar session this Thursday on April 30th at 10 a.m. CET. So please do register to join that. That's a great one. And obviously, you know, please reach out if you've got any questions in regards to release management, AI readiness, and implementation support. But yeah, thank you so much for everyone for joining us today, and a big thanks again to our speakers, and I hope everyone has a brilliant rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.